Good morning, Kiev. I'm Nadim, and I don't think that's my slide. There it is. Okay, I'm Nadim. I'm going to try to stay in the middle. I am a media buyer, and what that means is that I spend way too much time at the computer looking at numbers, turning up and down budgets, and praying that the clicks that I buy turn into revenue so I don't lose money. For the last 4 years, I have been taking apart Taboola, to a lesser extent Outbrain, but my focus today is going to be the traffic source Taboola, which is relevant for the Russians in this room as well, the Eastern Europeans in this room, because I don't think Outbrain has a presence here. With the introduction of iOS this year, more and more brands are turning to other traffic sources to drive revenue and grow their business. And what I have noticed, and what we have noticed as at 6H in Cologne, is that native, specifically Taboola, is probably one of the best alternatives to the traditional Facebook, Google drivers of traffic and revenue. And I'd like to show you a little bit about how we use it and how the brands that we work with make a ton of money on Taboola. A bit about myself and a bit about the agency. A year ago, a bit more than a year ago, we were 2 people sitting in Cologne wondering what we're going to do with our lives. We were media buying as affiliates, making a good amount of money, but it was not consistent. If we stopped working, we stopped earning. I'm sure a lot of people in this room have that problem. And at the beginning of this year, we founded 6H Agency. What that means now, this year we've grown to 35 employees, most of them based in Germany. This year we're pacing towards 14 million euros in ad spend, in native ad spend, most of that in Germany. And as you see, 75% of our spend is in Germany at the moment, but we are slowly but surely expanding to other markets. And I mean, probably most impressively of all, we've tested over 1,300 landing pages this year alone in Germany. And why that's important, I'm going to tell you in a second. What I'll cover, for those of you that have no idea what native is, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of Taboola. Who is native for? Unfortunately, native isn't for everyone. So I want to quickly make sure that you don't end up wasting money when I don't think, or when your brand isn't a fit for what Taboola has to offer. Thirdly, I'll be talking about stability and scale. So how you can use native and leverage native to consistently drive a ton of clicks, a ton of revenue to your website, and the native effect. So effectively, what happens with the users that don't convert on Taboola? Where do they convert? What happens to the millions or billions of impressions that you're buying? And what happens to all of that brand awareness? Terminology, bear with me. Tracker is what we use to track. I recommend if you run native, you get one. I use volume. Then ad is an ad. It's what you see in the native feed. A landing page is the content page between the ad and the offer page, so the thing you're trying to sell. And then an offer page is what you're trying to sell. So oftentimes you can go directly from the ad to the offer page, but we, at 99% of our traffic, goes through a landing page. And again, I'm going to tell you why today. What is native? Taboola has ads underneath content pages. So if you're reading an article on most websites, at the bottom of the website, there will be organic suggestions followed by Taboola ads. They look like organic content, making them extremely effective at bringing people in to read your content and consume what you're trying to sell them. Unlike YouTube or Facebook, you're not interrupting their experience, and so they click on your ad because they're interested in what you're talking about, interested in the problem that you're presenting, and they want to know more. So you need to give them content, you need to give them a reason to read more and to consume more about your product or your service and what you're trying to sell. What is native? It's the moment of next. Like I said, at the bottom of an article, people are ready to consume the next content piece, and it's non-interruptive. The main challenge of modern marketing, in my opinion, is scaling and doing that at a consistent price. Oftentimes, it's one or the other. If you want low CPAs, you have to keep your budgets nice and low. If you want to make a lot of money, or if you want to spend a lot of money, you're going to have high CPAs. I don't think that has to be the case, and I'm going to tell you why native is the reason or the solution to scaling at consistent CPAs. What is native for? First of all, native is amazing for products with a broad appeal. If you're selling something that every single person in Kiev could use, you're going to enjoy running native ads. It's because you don't have audience pockets or segments that you can target. And so what you're doing with native is you're saying, okay, imagine you're raising your hand in a room and says, who's interested in a watch? The more people that are interested in the watch, the higher your CTR, the higher your CPM, the lower you can bid to get that click, to get that user to get on your page. If you have a product that only 1 in 10,000 people want, it's going to be really hard to sell it on native. And so you need to really think about, who is my product for? How broad of a demographic can I approach native with? And how am I going to reach? Is native the right choice for me with a product that's a very niche, in a very, very small niche? It can work, but it's a lot more challenging than something like Facebook or Google. It's mainly top funnel. I would say 98% of our spend is on new audiences, on finding new people for our brands and our customers that we run with. And it's extremely effective at reaching these people because of the moment of next, because of the fact that people aren't interrupted by your ads, and you can serve them something they're interested in. Lastly, retargeting is extremely effective on native, but you need large audiences, and I'll talk a bit about the native effect at the end of what I have today. A quick intro to Taboola specifically. There are effectively 3 parts to Taboola. The segmenting part, which happens on the native feed, the serving content part, which happens on your landing page, and the selling part, which happens on your offer page. For segmenting, I'm talking about the ad level, so who you want to approach. Most people fail at Taboola in the segmenting, in the ad level phase of native. Quick show of hands, who has tried native in the past? Who has failed at native in the past? All right. Most people fail here. They say, okay, I'm going to have a product, I'm going to take the Facebook funnel that I have, and I'm going to copy paste it onto Taboola. That's 9 out of 10 times not going to work, because on Facebook you have an audience, you can segment your users and you can approach them in a very specific way. On native, you're in a crowd full of people vying for the same audience for everyone in the room, and you need to make yourself heard with high CTRs. That's why native is often referred to as clickbait. It's the only reason that you need to have clickbaity headlines is to attract the attention of as many people as possible, reduce your CPC, and increase your CTR. We do this by presenting a problem in the ad. So rather than selling something in the ad, we're going to present a problem to segment the users. I want people to click on my ad that are potential customers, but I don't want them to think that I'm selling them something. So I want them to come in with a demand or with a problem. So example, I twisted my ankle. 2 hours in Kiev, and I've been limping since then. I would like something that would help me not limp or reduce the pain of my ankle. So if somebody serves me an ad that says, "Do you have ankle pain?" I'm going to click on it. It's that same principle on native. You shouldn't try to sell something on the native feed. You should try to segment the users you try to reach. So if you want women over 50 to click on your ad, or people over 50 to click on your ad, a headline that says, "People over 50 are impressed by this product," is going to find you the right people. Just a generalization. The second level is obviously the content, the selling, the segmenting or serving content section of native. We use landing pages. They're simple. They don't look very complex, but we test a lot of them. The idea is, how can you bring a user in with a problem, present them that problem, explain to them why they have to solve that problem, and then present them with a solution. This is how all of our landing pages are structured. It's relatively simple, it's straightforward, but because you don't have intent in the traffic that you're getting, you're not targeting or you're not segmenting the 1% of native users that have an interest in something, you're reaching everyone, you need to generate that intent. And we do that oftentimes through FOMO. This is an offer that's too good to miss up. I don't want the user to click on my ad and then jump off thinking, "Yeah, that was cool. I might buy it later." I want the user that has clicked on my landing page to realize this problem is something they have to fix right now, and the solution is something that is limited in time or scope. And so you do this through bundles, through discounts, you're not allowed to do timers on Taboola, but you can incorporate the sense of urgency by saying limited stock, or this is an exclusive offer, or reducing the price for readers exclusive to the people that are on that page. And this works really, really well. Landing page CTRs, it depends a bit on the country and what you're selling, but our lowest landing page CTR is in the single digit. Our average landing page CTR in Europe is between 25 and 35% between mobile and desktop, and the highest landing page CTR we've ever had this year on desktop was 69% of users that landing on a page read 500 words and clicked on a call to action. It can be extremely effective, especially if you are presenting a problem that a lot of people can relate to. There's a couple of examples. HelloFresh started working with us in May. They spent 250 euros in the first quarter on Taboola. They are now pacing at a couple of $100,000 in 14 countries. And we've achieved this through testing like crazy. And so, for example, landing page tests have two elements, or several elements, but two main elements. It's the format and look and feel of the page, and how you present the problem and the content that you serve on it. And so, for example, you might split test different headlines with different layouts and different formats to try to get the most users to click through on your page. I really recommend that you do not skimp on the testing phase of native. It is a lot of work. It requires patience and systematic methodological testing, but if done right, you can coast with a well-built native funnel for months or even years. I mean, my longest campaign that I did not touch after we got it working was on Yahoo, and I think it ran for 8 months with one ad and a static funnel, and it was phenomenal. It was probably our biggest moneymaker that we've had in a while. Testing is really important here. And so, for example, if you have different approaches, different pieces of content with different call to actions or different fear of missing out or different key selling points, test them all, find the mix that works the best, and then run with it. Always keep on iterating, but a lot of people, what they do is they have one landing page, and then they'll change 1% of that landing page and expect a different result. That's never going to work. When you start on native, always throw up 4, 5, 6 different approaches, split test, okay, how can I bring people in? What problems resonate with the audience that I'm running? And how can I sell them a solution that makes them buy right now? The last part of a native funnel, and then I'm done introducing native and we'll get to the juicy stuff, is the sale, or the selling part of everything. This is your offer page, your lead funnel, your product pages. It's relatively simple what you need to do here. First of all, keep it simple. Don't sell 300 million things, sell a few. Make it very simple to choose. If you're an impulsive buyer, you're not going to impulsively buy if you're given 100 options. You want things to be as simple as possible. You want the funnel to really push people towards buying one or two or three different product or product bundles. You do this by very simply presenting your product. Don't have a bunch of stuff in there that people have just read a long article. They know about your service because they've clicked through. Sell them something that's straightforward. This means that the product pages you're running on other traffic sources might not work on native. They might be too content heavy. They might have too much information on them. And the simplest product pages are the ones that work the best. You can also use native to upsell and downsell, increase the AOV. Because people are reading and engaging with what you're presenting, the AOV tends to be much, much higher than first-time buyers on other traffic sources. It's hard to give you an exact figure, but we have found that the AOV on native, if done right, can be 2 to 3 times higher than cold acquisition on Facebook. And then obviously upsell everything that you can to try to increase your AOV so you can increase your CPA and buy more traffic. I think that applies to every traffic source in the world. That's it. That's the introduction to native, and I'd like to get into the different approaches of how you can use what we've just talked about. There were really two ways or two extremes of filtering and buying media on native. There's a low CPC approach. I call it the content arbitrage approach. It's the ads that you see out there that are really, really clicky. You won't believe what Princess Diana did in whatever, right? Those type of headlines, they don't go for targeting or segmenting. They just want to reach the masses. They're very cheap, but they're very untargeted. So the users you get on that page aren't going to be very relevant to your product, but they're also not going to cost you a lot of money. The other extreme is the high CPC one. Women between 45 and 55 in the state of New Jersey are buying this product. That's a very targeted approach. You're going to be missing out a lot of people in the native feed. You're going to have to pay a lot more, but the users that you reach are going to be a lot more segmented. The reason this is important is because I hear a lot of people complaining about either not getting delivery or getting too much delivery on Taboola without conversions. Oftentimes it's because their CPM is either way too low or way too high, and they're not testing enough approaches or trying to play around with their segmenting to reach the right people at the right price. Oftentimes, the best approach is somewhere in the middle. It's not going to be the cheapest, it's not going to be the most expensive, but the idea is to split test and find the right idea and find out how you can reach the people you want to reach at the most effective price. Remember that CPM is your bid on native. Most of the time people think, okay, I've bid 60 cents on desktop, I should get traffic. That doesn't mean anything on native, because at the end of the day, the publishers that are running on native don't care about your bid, they care about how well they can monetize 1,000 people at a time on their website, which equals CPM. If you have a good CPM, you can bring your bid down. If you have a bad CPM, you have to bring your bid up, regardless of what your bid is. If you're bidding $3 for a click on mobile, and you have a CTR of 0.00001, you're not going to get delivery. Even if your CPC is $3, which is way too much in any geo in the world, for native. So if you find yourself in that position, you're in the high CPC range, and you are segmenting your people way too aggressively. So you have to find a way to approach the audience that you're talking to on native in a more effective manner, in a higher CTR manner, while not diluting your approach to the point where you reach people that are irrelevant. This is an example. Americans saving thousands with this insurance is a very broad headline. You are reaching everyone. Everyone has an insurance. Everyone wants to save money. In America, most people are Americans. This is a very, very broad headline. The other approach would be to say dental insurance is saving men over 50,000. This is a much more targeted, I have my demographics, so men over 50. I have my product, dental insurance, and so you're approaching people with, you're making people aware of exactly what you're selling and what type of demographic you're reaching. So the likelihood that you reach men over 50 who have an interest in dental insurance is much, much higher in the second approach, but it's also going to cost you a lot more. So split test the two. All of this brings stability and scale. The benefit of Taboola versus other traffic sources is that you can control your CPC, so you're not going to be at the mercy of an algo black box, which is often the case on Facebook, for example. You have control over the publishers, so if you don't want to run on MSN Russia, you don't have to. You can block it, you can bid it down, you can get rid of it. If you want to run more on MSN Russia, you bid it up, and it works, and you get more traffic. There is no algo black box. If you have a good CPM on native, you're going to get delivery. It's that simple. There isn't really that much more to it. Most people make it more complicated than it has to be. Your CPM is your bid. Your CPM is what the publishers care about. Your CPM is what's going to make Taboola money. So at the end of the day, the CPM that you get from your campaigns is going to make or break your success on native. And most people, I mean, Taboola doesn't even show the CPM by default on the backstage. So you have to go and manually put it into the view to see your CPM. I really urge all of you on native, on Taboola, on any traffic source to always have a look at the CPM, because at the end of the day, that is the most important variable to success on native. And then you're generating a ton of intent through content. You don't have landing page CTRs that are anywhere near this high on cold audiences as on native, because the publishers are very premium, because you have a very, very high quality network of publishers on Taboola. You're reaching people that have the ability to buy, that have interests and the money to make purchases, and that are consuming the content to allow them to do that. And that's very, very effective at generating interest. These are a couple of examples of the stability and scale that you can reach on Taboola. This is a client of ours. They've spent around $250,000 monthly between the month of April and October. They always hit their CPA targets. The only reason you have a spend fluctuation is because some months were more expensive than others, but every single month we delivered a consistent number of leads, and this stability is impossible to achieve or very difficult to achieve on other channels. Here's another case, literally $2 million in ad spend this year with stability and consistent results. They're spending about $300,000 a month, a bit more on some months, a bit less on others, which is completely normal, but the stability of native with a good funnel is unmatched. I cannot emphasize that enough. Methodology. Don't sell a product in the ad. Segment an idea or a problem. Content. Sell a solution to that problem. Don't link to the product page or your homepage. I see so many e-commerce brands sending users to their homepage. Native is not made for that. You don't have any intent. You don't have any targeting. What you're doing is you're fishing people out of a crowd and throwing them into a shop. And they're going to be like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? I clicked on a content piece about something that I'm interested in, and now I have to buy a product? No, thank you. And they'll jump off. And so you have a lot of people complaining about high bounce rates, bad traffic. They blame it on bot clicks. It's not bot clicks. It's no intent. So if you don't go and generate that intent through content, you're going to have a very, very, very miserable time on native. There's two examples to good landing pages here. I've just put them into bit.ly links because I wasn't sure how else to do it. But I don't know, are you going to share this? So Nick is going to share the slides afterwards, so feel free to check them out. There are always 2 campaigns on Taboola running on cold user acquisition. One desktop campaign and one mobile and tablet. You can have as many retargeting campaigns as you want, but they're not going to spend as much as your cold campaigns. You always run between 6 to 10 ads per campaign. And so the idea is to really keep it lean. You don't upload 30 things at a time because you're not going to get delivery on 25 of them. You always test, in the testing phase, 2 ads that are working with 4 new ones. So you're always rotating. Your goal is to replace the 2 ads that are running with 2 new ones and then continue the testing phase. In the scaling phase, 4 ads live at most and 2 new ones to feed the algorithm and continuously look for new things. You always pause based on CPM at the beginning and then CPA. If you're not getting delivery, your goal is to focus on the CPM. And optimizing publishers, you always do that. On Taboola, there's no penalty if you go hard and bid up or down at the beginning, but make sure that you do it on a relevant amount of data. And always use smart bid. You're doing yourself a favor by using it. The native effect. This is probably one of the most interesting things that I've ever seen on native. The theory is that native has a huge effect on every other acquisition source. So if you run native ads, you're seeing an uplift on every other source. There's a million ways to look at this. There's a million attribution methods. All of them will tell you a different story. In October last year, we had a company that had no ad spend. It was brand new, and they were not running any ads anywhere else. And it was a DTC e-commerce brand, we started running Taboola ads. And so they went from 25,000 revenue in September 2020 to 972,000 euros in revenue in October. We did this with about 123,000 euros in ad spend on Taboola. And the crazy thing is, for every conversion we tracked on Taboola or in our tracker, we generated 2.5 sales on their website. That means people who clicked on our ads, who saw our ads, who were engaged with the content, who read the content that we were selling or presenting them, they didn't always buy. They jumped off, they Googled the product over SEO, they clicked on the links and bought things there. You have a massive impact because of the raw amount of impressions that you're getting. Here we had viewable impressions, almost 65 million in 1 month in Germany. Germany is like 83 million people. So you're really reaching a lot of people, and viewable impressions are really counted if a user sees part of the ad for more than a second. So they're people who have had touch points with your ad, and we generated a lot of clicks, 620,000 clicks. So obviously we had a very broad approach, and we brought in a lot of people, generated a lot of interest, and that translated to an incredible ROAS for that client. Of course, from 25 grand to 972,000 in revenue in 1 month is quite a bit of a jump. This is not the norm, don't expect this, but I'm just telling you that this is a beautiful case of the impact that native can have on your brand and the revenue that you generate over other channels. Lastly, and I'll keep it short here because I'm running out of time, most people are running Criteo if they own a brand or some sort of product, and that's fine. I'm not going to tell you not to, but if you have a big enough audience, I'm talking a couple of 100,000 people a month, start running Taboola. Place a Taboola pixel and retarget on Taboola because, because Taboola is incredibly efficient at reaching people at a low CPM. So if you have 100,000 people and you have a CPM of $1, you're going to reach all of those 100,000 people for $100 once. So you have an incredible versatility. You have an incredibly cheap way of reaching people, much better than Criteo, because Criteo ads are not built for Taboola. So they're going to look funky, and they're going to sell a product. And the only reason it works is because it's retargeting. If you do it properly, I mean, this is an example. We spent 5.6K for one of our e-commerce clients in Germany and generated 123,000 euros in revenue on retargeting. I don't want to say that we did the craziest funnel. This was one-to-one, the cloned cold funnel, just retargeting people that came in through other traffic sources. And this is the exact reason that I think everyone who has enough traffic on their website is missing out on a ton of revenue by not retargeting directly with the traffic sources. Important callouts: the broader your audience, the better or easier it'll be on native. The higher the incentive, so the higher their discount or the bundle, the better it'll run. If you don't give people a reason to buy now, they're not going to buy now. It doesn't matter how good your product is, because if they can go to the supermarket and they go on Amazon and order it for the exact same price, probably without shipping costs, they're going to do it. And so if you want direct response campaigns, you need to make sure you give people a reason to buy. I see so many brands saying, but it works on Facebook without a discount. It works on Facebook with shipping costs. And I'm like, Yeah, because it's Facebook and this is native. You don't have the same targeting options, you don't have the same intent. But if you give the people a reason to buy now, they will. And lastly, native produces the stability most channels lack. Because of the lack of a black box, because you're not fighting against an algorithm nobody really understands, even Facebook doesn't understand Facebook. It's really, really, really straightforward with the right approach to have a lot of success. And that's it on my end. I really wanted to kick the day off a little bit with something different. And I hope that you enjoyed the session. And if you have any questions, I'll be outside with Nick. Feel free to talk to me and approach me. I have a colleague from Taboola, Andre, with me today, who will be more than happy to also provide a bit of a Taboola approach or input to whatever you guys need. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great day. Enjoy your day.